Hello, welcome to post-match chat, match 19 of the PSL 2021. Peshawar Zalmi versus Quetta Gladiators. Peshawar Zalmi winning handsomely by 60 odd runs, by 61 runs. On today's show, we have Arman back. Arman's on a roll. The last last two shows, he's back. Arman, how are you?
Zabardast. I'm feeling a little bit disappointed that my prediction didn't win, but as I said on the last show, the chance is very slim for Quetta anyways.
Yeah, we mentioned that, didn't we? That we were both thinking that Quetta don't really have it in them this season. Although I initially predicted that they would win yesterday, their first game on the resumption. Why do you think that is? There's something definitely wrong there, isn't there?
Yeah, they're simply not playing good cricket. That's the simple answer. Not good enough to really compete with the best teams in the PSL this year. But I was having a quick look at their squad as well. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the resumption and maybe some of the international players going around. Pre-tournament, I'm talking about, before it started in the first leg, Quetta seemed to have a pretty strong squad on paper. But looking at that team yesterday, honestly, especially with the batting, I don't know where the runs are going to come from. I don't know about you, but I go through that. They've got a very inexperienced opening partnership. They've got a new guy that's come in who scored some runs as their international overseas player that's come in for this leg at like 3 and 4. And they look very, very weak at the moment in terms of
Arman,
even.
is that just the Pakistani batsmen who aren't very strong, or are you talking generally as a batting side? They don't look very good. Because remember,
Well,
they have got Faf du Plessis, Cameron Delport, two really good batsmen.
yeah, they are very good batsmen, but I'm just not seeing them, being match winners to the level that other players, other franchises in the world have. I just feel like sometimes we just look at teams on paper and we're like, oh, you be a chai, we'll be a chai, you be a chai, we'll be a chai. And that's going to be true for almost every lineup in franchise cricket because nobody picks a squad that is going to be weak on paper, right? But really, when you're sitting there and looking at this team and you're comparing it to some of the others, it seems to lack experience. It seems to lack a little bit of unity. They're not playing good cricket. There seems to be, just a lot of trial and error. Like, let's chuck stuff at the wall, whatever sticks, and maybe Quetta will win. But there doesn't seem to be a sort of solid this is how we open. Like, with Peshawar Zalmi, Kamran Akmal is going to be opening. That Miller is going to be there. Like, that's a standard kind of setup that they have, right? Like, over here, like Osman Khan, I think he's played one game in the PSL before the resumption. And now suddenly he's meant to be there. Safe. Simon Ayub is one of their youngsters as well, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's a little bit strange.
I think the other thing was that we were talking about is their so set up, their ownership, the management. I think their owner put a tweet out, kind of giving up on this year's PSL already, saying we were not good enough, etc. Do they need a drastic change here? It looks like they need an overhaul, not just the players, maybe the coaching staff, just to change the mindset a little because this sort of echoes the Lahore Qalandars earlier seasons sort of setup, but they stuck with their setup and look now it's coming good. Um, but I reckon they need some changes. Even Safraz Ahmed as captain, I don't think he is what he was. I think it's time for a lot of changes at Quetta. I think this season has been not writing them off as of yet, but it is very tough now. But I think this season has been really disappointing.
I read the tweet. I think Anam sent it across to us, and she was definitely in favor of a radical overhaul. She's not happy with the management at all, and she definitely, asked me to sort of convey her sort of feelings on the matter as well. Um, I don't really think it is a management issue. I'm just going to be honest. I've had to listen to what you just said. I thought about it when Anam mentioned it. I thought about it when I saw the tweet. I don't know what a management overhaul is really going to do for Quetta if they don't put out a competitive team. And I really feel right now the 11 are just not good enough. They don't have good T20 experience. They're not T20 experienced match winners. They don't have a strong lineup. Matlab ki, you know what? Like any coach is only as good as the team that they can put out. I don't personally see a change in. I
No,
mean, let's
but Arman, in franchise cricket, it is the management who is going out looking for these players in the balloting, in the auctions, and they are literally picking their team. So I don't think that argument stands for in franchise cricket because once the management in place, they're in charge of picking out who they're going to bid for, who they think best fits their plans for the coming season. And I just don't feel the current management have got it right this season. I was a bit surprised by their selection. Even some of the emerging players, I don't
let me,
think they're good
let me
enough.
ask you a question. Before the PSL started, I'm not talking about round two. I'm talking about round one, like when we first had the tournament in before the end of 2020, right? When you saw the Quetta team on paper, did you feel that this is a very weak team?
Oh yeah, that's that. Yeah, you got me there. That's a good
Right,
question.
right,
They don't.
right,
Yeah, but now comparing the teams at this stage with the resumption, they do look weak.
right. But this is my point, right? That we've got to factor in what's actually happened here, right? They had some international players that then left them even before the COVID thing sort of broke out and we had a suspension. Am I right in saying
Yeah,
that Gale was playing for them, right?
yeah.
So that was a bit of an issue. Then they've had the resumption. That's sorry, the cancellation, the suspension, the moving countries. They didn't click. They had to change their batting order. They promoted some of the youngsters. And also, let's just look at their bowling. On paper, pre PSL beginning, they had an attack. What Zahid Mahmood was there. They had Hasnain was there. They had Naseem Shah. These were all promising prospects that you would think, man, international experience. Some of these guys have played T20 Pakistan. They've got one of the best captains. I don't blame the management at all for the squad that they picked. Unfortunately, it hasn't gelled and they haven't been able to play together as a team. And there's a lot of factors there. Maybe the captaincy has to take responsibility for that. I am a big Sarfaraz fan. I just genuinely feel I'm just having a think. If Shadab is leading this team, is suddenly the atmosphere going to change? If you look at Islamabad United, we talked about it yesterday, they seem to have a really good sort of vibe about them at the moment. But at the same time, their cricketers are, playing good cricket and they're performing. So my point is this, that if Shadab or who are some of the other captains, Imad, Wasim, just giving you ideas, we've got obviously Suhail Alawar Qalandars, I just don't think that if you're a captain and your big players are not turning up, I don't think there's much that you can do. I personally don't think that Sarfaraz changing is going to solve Quetta. I don't think that the management changing and the picks that they made before the draft happened pre PSL beginning was a problem. I think you just got to take it on the chin. T20, the margins are tight. They should be winning more games. They're not winning more games. But ultimately, where does the cricketer take responsibility and say, यार मैं बैट्समैन हूँ T20 का, मुझे रन्स बनाने चाहिए, मैं बॉलर हूँ, मुझे विकेटें लेनी चाहिए, या मुझे इकोनॉमी अच्छी देनी चाहिए, या मुझे स्ट्राइक रेट से अच्छी बैटिंग करनी चाहिए? Where do these cricketers take responsibility? So for me, the issue is the players not stepping up rather than the management picking wrong players. You've got to, as coaches, we say this all the time as Pakistani fans, back your players. Quetta have backed young players. They've backed Hasnain. They've backed Naseem Shah. They've backed Sam Ayub. They've backed Usman Khan. अब अगर ये बच्चे नहीं perform कर रहे हैं, so you can't go back now and say, oh, you know what, management go overall karo. That's my personal opinion.
I think that's a good point, Arman, because you're more or less saying that they're sticking with the players, but there is a lack of experience as well. Saeem Ayub, Usman Khan, Shinwari, even Zahid Mahmood, who else was there? Naseem Shah, Mohammad Hasnain. They're not the most experienced. Azam Khan, even. So Safraz Ahmed is sort of Safraz and Mohammad Nawaz are just two experienced Pakistani players. But looking at their opposition yesterday, Peshawar, who have a mixture of youth and experience. So you've got the likes of Heather Ali, and then you've got the experience of Shoaib Malik, Kamran Akmal, and so that kind of gels well, in my opinion. So I think Quetta selection might be that they just try. Well, the confidence in youth is too much. Maybe just getting that one experience head or two would help them. And coming to Peshawar's innings, they seem to be that team where one doesn't perform, another does. For example, the last game, Shoaib Miller performed really well. This game, he didn't, but Kamran moved it. So I think they've just got a good dynamic about them, a bit like the Islamabad team. They're full of confidence at the moment, and they're not heavily reliant on certain players. It's a good little squad there.
I agree with you, and that's what I was saying. Can you see the same point that I was making is the players are taking responsibility. जब एक और बंदा नहीं perform कर रहा तो आज मेरी बारी है. Kamran was under pressure, he came good, and that is desperately what Quetta need. I think Quetta really struggled in the first, first session of the PSL. Let's just call it that. They finally won a game right towards the end of it. Then, unfortunately, the break came at the wrong time. They lost a little bit of momentum. Now they've come over here and they've lost more international players. It hasn't been an easy ride for them. But the thing I would maybe I'm stating the obvious here, but these same players today that you're saying are inexperienced, by PSL 7 next year, will have more experience. Maybe some of them will play more cricket for Pakistan. So I just feel these knee-jerk reactions need to stop. There is definitely something that is wrong with the Quetta setup at the moment, but I don't think a radical overhaul is needed. I just think that they need to go back, train properly, maybe go out for a few dinners, let me have some bonding, which I know is really hard because we are in COVID times as well, and that can't be overlooked. But I just feel that a little bit of spirit is missing. And, when things are going wrong, with Sarfaraz behind the stumps, where you can audibly hear him saying, Yaar, तुम गलत लाइन पे बॉलिंग कर रहे हो या तुम ये कर रहे हो तुम वो कर रहे हो, that comes across very negative when the chips are down. As soon as the chips start going back up and they start winning a couple of games, suddenly the narrative will change and we'll start saying Sarfaraz, what a leader, kind of thing, right? He's always talking to his bowlers, whatever. So it's a double-edged sword with regards to his methods and style of captaincy and the management style. I still feel he's the best. Honestly, I still feel he is the best captain for T20 cricket for Quetta. I can't think of anyone that they can get that's definitely better than him. Maybe they can freshen things up and just have new ideas and a new leader. I wouldn't necessarily be against that in principle. That's does work wonders in sports sometimes to just have a new voice. I mean, I captain a team, and sometimes I have to ask my colleagues, please, guys, take over. Look, all the time I'm doing everything, saying everything. So I understand that from a experience ही नहीं है. He doesn't have any experience. So what do you do? It's kind of a tricky one. I would say be patient, stick with the management, stick with the leadership, back your boys. Just go back. Ultimately, at some point, your batsmen have to score runs and your bowlers have to take wickets with good economies. That's just the nature of T20 cricket.
The other thing was Heather Ali. We are talking about the inexperience, the youth, the future. And what's happening? What's happening there? I think me and Anam discussed this in a few episodes ago, where we just said, look, he needs a bit of rest. He needs to be taken out a little setup and sort of refresh mentally and physically before he comes back in. I think that was a golden duck, wasn't it? Yesterday for Heather Ali.
Yeah, I think that this is just a general point that I'm sort of observing. I know that you want me to zero in on Heather there. Heather actually hasn't, been too bad over the last sort of 12 months. Yeah, right now maybe he's not hitting top straps, but I just feel disappointed in the Pakistani youth, and we keep hearing this thing about break dena chahiye, you know what, they're playing too much cricket, and maybe some of that is true, but these youngsters also need to realize that these are huge opportunities. Playing in the PSL, playing for Pakistan in a T20 World Cup year. Ultimately, maybe what we're just finding is we don't have youngsters that have the ability to perform consistently over a period of time. They've got great talent, but ultimately, we've had this big debate. I think Hafiz was mentioning it in some of his press conferences as well, that they go Pakistani youngsters jab aate hain, so we pick them on the basis of talent. Whereas in other countries, when they're giving debuts to youngsters, they're coming as a finished product. So talent versus product.
I understand that with the national team, but in franchise cricket, where you are selecting emerging players and you're giving the youth a chance, I don't think that argument sticks. For example, we're now in season 6, right? And I know it's not always the best thing to do, but compare yourself to India or the IPL. But the reason why India are so good at the moment is because they learned from the international players who were mixing with them in the IPL teams and franchises. Their emerging players are now as good as the international standard of batsmen, for example. We've now had six seasons of really good and performing overseas international players come in and playing in the PSL. For example, Heather Ali's in what, season 3 or season 2, so they've had good exposure. But why is that success rate not just following through? Why is that experience from these international players, these senior players, not sticking with the youngsters?
I know that you made the distinction there between franchise cricket and international cricket. Honestly, I don't see that as a Pakistani fan, because I actually feel with these youngsters, they're playing those games side by side, and the pressures they're under and the ability to perform, they're still learning their game. Whether or not you take a Heather or a Asif or an Iftikhar to the Pakistan team, or you put them
No,
in the.
I think what I was trying to say was that the international team, I agree with Hafiz and yourself that you shouldn't be picking just by talent. You should have consistency behind them before they reach the international stage. So that's what I was on trip. But with franchise cricket, that is the opportunity for the youngsters to come through. So you can't really wait for them to perform. Where are they going to perform before they come?
No, that's fine. But the point I'm making is in a packed international calendar, ultimately, whether you're talking about their mental game or their physical game, they're still playing everything side by side. As in Pakistan, well, they've gone New Zealand, and they've played South Africa, then they've gone South Africa, then they've played Zimbabwe. Now they've got PSL. Sorry, they had PSL in between. Now they've got PSL again. What I'm trying to say is when you've got 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old, I don't think it really matters whether you're doing international cricket for Pakistan or you're doing PSL. Both are very high profile. Both are very high pressure series. If you're out of form in one area, whether it's international or you're out of form over here, it's very hard to claw yourself back, because where is that rest going to come from? Where is that development going to happen? Half the time these boys are in lockdown. Where are they actually learning their cricket? It's been difficult times, and I think Pakistani youngsters are being exposed. With regards to that Hafiz argument with regards to finished products or talent, that is a very viable sort of discussion to have. I actually don't. I thought that you kind of hinted that I agree with Hafiz. I actually don't, because Pakistani culture has always been based on allowing young talent to flourish at the highest level and then becoming a product. Whether that's right or wrong, we can have a separate show on that later. I don't really want to get into that right now. I'm just saying maybe this talent right now is a little bit softer than we need it to be at the international level, especially with World Cups coming. And I think they just need to step up. And maybe we are finding that the Zahid Mahmood, the Naseem Shahs, the Mohammad Hussain, maybe these are not the answers. And that's being reflected in their PSL performances at the moment. And maybe that's a big sign for things to come.
Yeah, I think I do slightly agree with you there. I do think that back when you did pick on talent, or we did pick on talent, the talent was scarily good. It was worlds apart. It was at a good standard. I just feel that these sets of players are not good enough, and they've had a lot of chances. But the question then remains is, who else is there? So there's got to be a good balance between the two occupants there. We do have to talk about Faf du Plessis' little incident of concussion, and then obviously if people are watching the Euros, Christian Eriksen in the Denmark-Finland game, and it just changes your perspective to sport. And I know us Pakistanis, we live and breathe cricket, but sometimes you have to take a step back and sort of acknowledge that there are bigger things to life. And what we saw with Christian Eriksen, who we do hope everyone from post-match chat wishes him well for the recovery, and we're all glad that he is awake and fine. And credit to those players who then went on and carried on playing. But yeah, Faf du Plessis' concussion as well. That was scary to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we were texting each other live more or less when it sort of occurred. There was something in the air yesterday. It was just a horrible day for sports injuries. We had the Faf incident. Obviously, you mentioned the Eriksen incident in the Euros, and then I think even in the Belgium-Russia game there was a double concussion which led to a double substitute. So it just seemed like horrible day. I think the other thing is we're all feeling a little bit vulnerable with the repercussions of COVID as well. Negativity's in the air. It's only now that the fans are starting to get back, but it was just a timely reminder that, sport is a dangerous thing on occasions, and when these athletes, we can sit there when they don't perform, and loosely with Twitter and social media, we can just sit there and criticize without any sort of repercussions or just give opinions. And sometimes, even we have to do this on the show, is that this bande ne acha nahi khela, us bande ne acha nahi khela. Sometimes we forget that they're putting their sort of welfare on the line, because accidents can happen at high level professional sport, and ultimately it's a good reminder not only that things are uncertain in life, but maybe sometimes as commentators we need to respect the abilities and the sacrifices that professional athletes make for our entertainment.
Yeah, I think that's 100% correct. Moving on to Umair Asif celebration, I'm not a big fan of it. I just think it's just not professional enough for me. I don't like the fact that he's using a prop. Right? I don't mind Hassan Ali's celebration, and I don't mind a few others, but the fact that he's got something in his pocket and he's using it, and then it happens to be a mask in these uncertain times where people are still falling ill, and so yeah, it didn't fit well for me. But what can you do? It's the modern day cricket, isn't it, man?
Well, okay, what don't you like about it?
The fact that he's got a prop.
Why
That's what I don't
does
like. No,
why
because
why
you,
does that change things
because
for you?
you're just you're bringing something onto the field to then use. I just don't. Maybe I'm a bit traditional. Like Hassan Ali doesn't use anything. He does go a bit over the top, in my opinion, but he gets away with it. Umair Asif, but then Hassan Ali is very good as well. He's performed at a really high level. Umair Asif to bring something on like that, I just think I just don't like it.
I don't have a. I mean, I'll respect your opinion on it. I can't see what the issue is. Ultimately, he's in the entertainment field. He's celebrating. I think there was a meme that I saw. Maybe it was deliberate or not. I don't know. It was something to do with you know, all superheroes wear masks or something like that. And I don't know what he's going after, but I'm sure there's a meaning behind it. Usually these kind of celebrations have something, but these guys remember.
Yeah, it will be nice to know what's behind it. That would be nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, remember that these guys have been in quarantine. They've lived more or less the last year and a half in sort of isolation, in bubbles, away from their families. They're getting a little bit of success. Come on, man. Like, take it easy.
All right, so I think we both got our predictions right for this game, didn't we? I went with Peshawar beating Quetta.
No, I actually went for Quetta, but I said I know.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
we'll
All right.
pretend that I got it right.
All right.
Just,
So for the next two games, so Islamabad, Lahore, Qalandars. Man, what do you reckon?
I'm a Karachi fan. I can't let Lahore win, and they're doing very well at the moment. So reluctantly, I'm gonna have to go for Islamabad.
Yeah, I'm good with Lahore, my team for the season. Well, for more seasons. Multan Sultans or Peshawar Zalmi.
That's a tough one to call. Both are playing some good cricket. Both have good squads. I'm just gonna say Peshawar Zalmi just because I prefer that kit.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go just the kit. I just think that mixture of experience and inexperience of youth is working. So I think Peshawar Zulmi will win that one. Arman, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure as always, and hopefully we get to see you on the next episode.
Fingers crossed, buddy. We'll see what it says and what my boss tells me.
Post match chat. Enjoy the games, and we'll speak soon.